In this video, I'm going to show you how to set up a prototype, really a mock-up of an app within the Figma platform as it is today. Today being the day that I'm recording this. Note that every platform changes over time, some more often than others. So if you see some things that I do in this video that differ from what you see on your end and whatever the modern day Figma looks like, just know that everything I'm going to do in this video is 100% doable in the updated latest version of Figma. You might just have to poke around a little bit. It might be located, tools and the like might be located in different locations or look ever so slightly different. So just, use your best judgment and you're going to find what you need. Okay, so to begin a project here in Figma, of course, I'm going to log in. If you don't already have an account, go ahead and set one up. Once you log into Figma, this is what you should see. By default, Figma drops you off in the Recents area that you can see over here on the left. I'm in Recents. But if you find yourself anywhere else, just go to Recents. And there at the top here, you're going to look for New Design File. That's what we want to do here is we want to create a new design file. Now, if you have difficulty finding any of this, you can always just go to All Projects, dismiss any things like that pop up, and here if you have an existing project, you can click into it. If you don't have a project, you can hit this plus button to create a new project. Just note, in the free version of Figma, you're limited to the number of projects that you can create, so you can create multiple design files within a single project. So that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to go into my team project here. I'm going to go to the top right. I'm going to click Create New. And again, I'm going to choose Design File. So again, you can either get there by clicking New Design File in the Recents page, or just go to your project, click Create New, followed by Design File. And this is what we're going to see by default, just an empty design file. So the first thing I want to do is go ahead and rename this. So I'm going to change it from Untitled to, in this case, Lucky Dog Rescue. All right, so now we have it named, and when we come back to it, it's auto-saving, so we can always go back into that project and look for the Lucky Dog Rescue design file. So next up, what I want to do is I want to create spaces for my designs, right? I already have a mock-ups completed, as you should on your end. Ideally, before you dive into any digital design, you should at least have a mock-up. I mean, you can note that these are not the prettiest things ever, but at the very least, it gives me an idea of how many pages I might need, how those pages are going to be laid out, as a rough estimate, and then I can refine that as I go, either in Sketch or jump into the design and start working with the tool to make this what I need it to be. So I know I need 6 pages, right? Based on what this website is going to need. This particular, this particular app is going to need 6 pages, 6 primary pages. So I want to go ahead and start creating some frames. So down here at the bottom, this is your primary toolbar that you're going to be working with. I want to look for this second icon right here. This is the frame tool. You can get there by clicking F, like Frank, or frame in this case, on the keyboard. And over here on the right, it gives me some predefined sizes. Now I can always just click and drag to create a custom size, but in this case, I'm going to want to target a mobile platform, and I want to target one of the more widely used available platforms. So in this case, I'm just going to choose iPhone 16 Pro here. Now, if your instructions call for a different size, be sure you go with that. But in this case, I'm just going to design for the iPhone 16 Pro. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. That's Command minus on the keyboard. And I'm going to move my view here so I can see our multiple artboards that we're going to create. So I'm going to hold the space bar on my keyboard, and it's going to turn my mouse pointer into a little hand. And while holding the spacebar, I can click and drag to move my view around. Now on your end, you can likely, if you're using, say, your MacBook Pro, you can use 2 fingers on the keyboard and just sort of drag around in order to get where you need. All right, so with that done, I want to maybe add some elements that I know are going to be on nearly every page. So if we look back here, we can see the logo is going to be at the top of every single page. And for the most part, it's going to be consistently placed. So let's go ahead and add the logo. And for that, I need to go to my file browser. And here I've collected all the images that I'm going to use in this design. Now, I've already edited these images. Here in Adobe Illustrator, I've dropped all my images in. I've edited them for size as much as I need to, and I've just gotten them nice and organized. Now, when I'm ready to export these for actual use in Figma, I'm going to go to File on the menu bar, followed by Export, and then I'm going to choose Export for Screens. Now here I can choose all the images that I want to export. I can adjust the scale. I already have them the scale are slightly larger than I actually need. And then I can choose by clicking the little folder icon here where I want to save these. So like I said, I've already have that done. I have them all here. So let's grab our logo and drop it in. And then we're going to resize this. Now, I want you to note that as we resize this, Figma by default is going to basically create a frame. This acts much in the same way, slightly different, but much in the same way that Adobe InDesign does, in that images live within a frame. If the frame is not large enough, wide enough, tall enough, what have you, to contain the image, then it's going to crop that image. In this case, I want to constrain proportion. So I'm going to undo a few times. I'm going to hold down Shift on the keyboard, and then I'm going to drag. That way we ensure that our frame is the same proportion as the image within it. So nothing is getting cut off. I'm going to stick it right here in the middle. And I want to make sure that this logo is sized appropriately for the background image that I know I'm going to put in there. So I'm going to put my background image in, and this too, I'm just going to size up because I want it to be I want it to fill the frame, right? It should take up the entire frame. All right, so you've probably noticed that the image that we've added is now sitting on top above our logo. So we can't see our logo anymore. We need to fix that, but thankfully it's relatively easy to do. Now, if you're in this situation and you find that you try to send the image to back, which is what we're going to do in a moment, by right-clicking and then going to send to back, that's the left angle bracket on your keyboard. If you do that and nothing happens, what you need to do is just move, click and move. So I want you to notice when I click and try to move it, it's actually moving the entire frame. So we have to click again in order to actually select the image, and then we can send to back. That way we're selecting the image and not the entire frame. All right, so with that done, I think we can probably size this down a wee bit. We don't need it that big. All right, so with that done, let's go ahead and select this image. Again, we might have to click it twice because clicking once on a full bleed image in a frame is going to select the entire frame. Click again to select the image. I'm going to just go ahead and get rid of that because I want to create the rest of our pages, right? The rest of our frames before I move along. So what I'm going to do is select our frame here by clicking its title on the top. And I'm going to hold the Option key on my keyboard and the Shift key on the keyboard. Option key and drag will duplicate. Shift will constrain the X and Y axis. So holding Option and Shift and then dragging it away allows me to duplicate that frame. Now I can use an Illustrator quick key, Command D, like dog, Command D, like dog, to duplicate my last action. The last thing I did is just going to do it again. In this case, a duplication. All right, so I need to rename these, each of these pages, so I know which is which. And I'm going to just name these in order by double clicking the title at the top of each of these frames. With that done, we can start laying our content out. So again, I'm going to go back to my images and I'm going to start laying out this home page here, the landing page. So I'm going to grab this hero image here. I'm going to drop it in just as we did before. I'm going to size this up, get it into place, click, and then click again to ensure I'm selecting the image. Right click, send to back. And now I want to zoom in on this page because I need to add a button at the bottom of this. If you look here, I have a little navigation button that's meant to take us to the About page. So I'm going to hit Z, press and hold Z on my keyboard. And with Z, the Z key held, I can click and drag to select where I want to zoom. And now we can zoom right in on this page. I'm going to hold the spacebar key in order to sort of move this up a little bit. And now I want to start adding shapes in here. This is going to be a big button at the bottom. And now I'm going to add my first shape here. Well, it's somewhere right in here. It doesn't have to be exact yet. We can always make adjustments later, but I do want it centered. I'm going to figure out about where I want it on the page. And now I'm going to want to apply a color. I want this to be the Lucky Dog Rescue orange that has been defined for the brand. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click this shape that I just created. I'm going to go over to my right-hand menu here. I want to be sure that I'm on the Design tab, not Prototype yet, but the Design tab. And here I want to look down to the Fill area. So you can see by default it's filled with a light gray. I can click that light gray to bring up the color picker. And here I want my little eyedropper tool. So I'm going to click that. I'm going to bring it up here. I'm just going to click on the orange of the logo in order to apply that orange. And if I wanted to, I could even click this little plus button up here and just call it a, let's see, Lucky Dog Rescue Orange. And add it to my library. That shouldn't be necessary for much of what we're going to do here. Just note that you can add variables and styles. So let's see, LDR orange, and have that available to you when you need to apply a color in the future. So for this, I also know that I don't want this to be perfectly rectilinear. These hard angles here, that's not part of the brand I've created. So instead, I'm going to click this shape, this rectangle I created, and I'm going to look to these little dots at each of the corners. I'm going to click and drag until my radius is about where I want. In this case, I'm going for a radius of 10 for this button. Okay, so with that done, we can add some text to it. So I'm going to either click the little T down here on the menu bar, the toolbar, or I'm just going to hit T on the keyboard in order to bring up my text tool. And then I can click and drag in order to create a text box. And this I'm going to call Foster Adopt Donate. There we go. And for this text, I want to choose the font that I selected for the brand. In this case, it is Fredoka. And I want this size 24, bold, and centered. There it is, centered. And for everything else, I'm probably going to want it middle aligned here because I want it perfectly centered within this orange background for the button I created. Pull this out, and then I can drag it around until it is perfectly centered here. All right, so with that, the home page is done, and we can move on to the About page. So I can look at my about page here, and I can see I need a few buttons down here at the bottom. I've actually made some adjustments since I created this. So I know I do know I'm going to need a foster and volunteer, an adopt, a donate, and contact. I want them to be able to get to a contact page, and that's something I want you to keep in mind as you're working through this. You're going to have early prototypes, early ideas. A lot of it's going to be malleable as you work through this. So in this case, let's create our 4 buttons, and I want to use this button down here as sort of my baseline. I always want a consistency between each of the pages, between the elements on a page and page to page. So I'm going to create sort of my baseline, my bottommost point. Our topmost point is the logo. Our bottommost point is going to be the buttons. So let's grab this by clicking and dragging to select it. And here I've also selected the background image, which I don't want to copy over. So I'm going to hold the Shift key on my keyboard and then click to deselect that. And now I can use the same duplicate trick. I'm going to hold Option on the keyboard to duplicate, and I'm going to hold Shift at the same time in order to constrain it to an XY axis. So with Option and Shift held, I can click and drag to move this over, follow my alignment guides to make sure it's centered, and drop it. So from here, I know I'm going to need 4 of these, but I want them differently styled, so I want to apply that style before I actually start duplicating it. So I'm going to grab this background of the button, the orange, and I'm going to change it from the orange to a light gray that I've already defined, in this case 90 90 90. And I know my bottommost button needs to say contact. I want it the same size, but I want to take this down to a medium. Now I can click and drag across these to select them, select both the text and the background of the button, and then I can hold the Option key on my keyboard as well as Shift, and then drag it up. And let's aim for 20 pixels of distance between those buttons and see how it works out. So I've duplicated my first one, and again, we're going to use a trick in order to duplicate our last action. That's Command D on your keyboard. So Command D and Command D. It duplicates my last action with the selected object, in this case, the most recently created button. Now, if you look back here, we need some text, and we need this triangle element. So let's go ahead and add in our text, which I have already written out here in a Word document. I have all of my copy written for each page of this app. So I'm going to go ahead and select all of this text and copy it. And then over here in Figma, I'm going to add a text box. So I'm going to click the little T icon down on our toolbar. You can alternatively click the T key on your keyboard, and then click and drag. And then I'm going to press Command V in order to paste this in. Obviously, we need to make some adjustments, right? So I'm going to size this down to 14 pixels in size. I'm going to adjust the weight to regular, and I'm going to leave this centered, center alignment. But I want this to be top aligned within the text frame here for consistency across. And with that done, we can add the final piece here. That's going to be this sort of triangle elements between the body copy and the first of the buttons. So let's go ahead and select our polygon tool. You can get there by looking to what will by default be a square icon down on your toolbar, and then you can click the little drop down arrow right there to find all of your shape options here in Figma. So I'm going to choose the polygon, and then I'm going to click and drag just to start an initial shape here. But I really need it. Then I'm going to click and drag just to start my initial shape here. Now, of course, I need it flipped around, but just getting an initial shape is perfectly fine because we can hover to the outer corner of this drawn shape and click and drag around to rotate it. Now I'm going to use this button right here for sizing purposes. I'm going to pull it up, see that it is consistently spaced between elements, and I need to change the color. I want this to be the Lucky Dog Rescue Orlando orange. So I'm going to click to select it, go over to our properties panel on the right, and under the fill section, I'm going to click the color. Again, I'm going to choose this eyedropper tool, and I'm going to click on the logo here to select that orange. I can close that, and that looks pretty okay. All right, so next up, we need to adjust the titles here. So to do that, I'm going to double click on this text. So now our sort of navigation menu is in order. Okay, so with that done, let's move on to the third page, donate here. So if we look here, we're going to have our logo, we're going to have our text, which again I have ready. I have donate button on this page, and then I have an image that again is already prepared. So we can actually reuse some of the assets that we have here. Let's tidy this up and make sure it's appropriately sized. And now I'm going to use that same trick, Option Shift, click and drag to duplicate our text box up here. Make sure it is center aligned as I need it to be. I'm going to go to Microsoft Word here. I'm going to grab our text for the donation, replace that in here, probably make some adjustments so that, there we go, so that those lines break the way that I want them to. Double check here. We're going to need a donate button and an image. So I am going to grab this button, click and drag over here. I'm going to copy it and paste it. So I'm going to select, again, click and drag to select both the text and the sort of background shape. Right click and copy, or Command C. And then I'm going to come over to the donate frame here, click anything in it to make sure donate is selected. And then I can right click and paste as with in this case I would paste with properties, or I can just Command V to paste it in, and it will paste in place. So here I need to change the color. Again, I'm going to select the background there, that shape, that rounded rectangle, go to fill, select the appropriate color. It's also down here. You can grab it. And this one, I think I want to make bold. Click and drag to select both of those, bring them up, make sure it is appropriately sort of spaced in there. Okay, there we go. And next up, we're going to add an image. So you'll recall I have all of our images ready to go, titled appropriately so I know what goes where and in what order. In this case, I'm going to grab the donate image that I have set up and drop it in. And now I'm going to size it up. I'm holding the Shift key while dragging to constrain proportions. Now I get to decide where I want to put it. So in this case, I could bring it here so that these are equally spaced. I could conceivably turn on my ruler by clicking the little actions button down here on the toolbar and choose show rulers. And this will allow me to draw out spacing between each of these pages. I could conceivably come in here and just make sure that everything is evenly spaced throughout. So maybe I want the donate button to be top aligned with where this element is, and then bring that down so that this inhabits the same space as the buttons there. It's up to you, your design sensibilities, and what you have determined for your layout, but that looks okay for now. All right, so with those first 3 pages done, I'm gonna skip through much of the rest of this. I'll show you the sort of finished product after adding additional content and making some refinements, and then we'll get into creating the form page and adjusting the prototype so that when you click through, you can actually navigate page to page to page. First thing I want to do though before that is show you this adopt page. I have, if we open up our Word document, quite a bit of content that needs to go on this page, and the single frame here, rather the frame that is sized just for the screen, no scrolling or anything, isn't going to be enough. So in order to make this larger, let me zoom in here, holding the Z key, clicking and dragging. In order to make this larger, I need to click the frame title to select the frame, and then I can click and drag from the bottom to make this as long as I need it to be. And then I can start adding content in. Now, when I get to the bottom, if I need more, again, I just click the frame title to select the frame and then make it longer. Or if I find that I have enough content, I have more vertical space in the frame than I actually need, I can click and then drag it up to decrease the height of that. Okay? All right, so that said, let's skip ahead for a second. So as you can see, we have completed most of the rest of the pages. We have the adopt page largely complete, added in images, the headers for each of the dog names, descriptors, in a separate text box, little links to adopt each of the animals within, because if you want to link those as opposed to linking the whole body of the text, they will need to be in individual text frames, because you link frames to other frames or pages, not individual pieces of text. So I've also completed the foster/volunteer page, contact page. And you might have noticed I added in some sort of placeholders for a couple forms. Now, you're going to need form pages for each the donate and the foster/volunteer page. And I could do these on the same page, but for this particular approach to the app, I decided I want these on separate pages, and we can link between them. All right, so let's take a look at the donate form first. Now, Figma does have form modules, form assets that you can put in, but they are a little bit more difficult to work with than some of the tools we've been working with so far. They're quite a bit more difficult to edit the stylization of them. So considering this is just a mock-up, it's an interactive mock-up, we won't be working with live form fields in this. Instead, we want to put in styled form fields that are styled fields art that is indicative of what the final product should look like once the designer, you, hands it off to the developer. So in order to do that, we need to add some form fields in here. And the way we're going to do that is, in this case, with rectangles. So I'm going to draw out a rectangle. I'm going to center it on the page. I'm going to adjust the height of it, because I don't need it to be quite that tall. And then we're going to adjust the style of it. So in this case, I don't want the fill to be anything but white. We can either take it to white, or we can just set the opacity of that field to nil. But I also want a stroke on it. So in this case, I'm going to add a stroke, and I'm going to choose actually one of the other grays that we've used in the past. And now we have a little box here to act as our form field. I can also come in here and let's grab some of this text and paste it onto this page. And I'm going to change this to say, there we go, full name. And now I can bring it on up. In this case, I want it to be left aligned and indented ever so slightly. Okay, so we can now take this and duplicate it a few times. I'm going to need, of course, the full name. Let's zoom in for one, so maybe it's not trying to snap quite so aggressively. Take it to 14 pixels spacing there. I'm going to need full name, email, phone, billing address, card number, expiration, CCV, and an amount, how much we want them to donate. So we'll need at least this many rows. So let's start now editing this. So we're going to want to ask for their email, their phone number, their billing address, which is going to be needed. You know, if you bought anything online, you got to have at least your billing address, card number, expiration, CCV, that sort of deal. Let's see, we're going to ask for card number, and we're going to ask for expiration. And in this case, what I think I want to do, let's take this to amount. I need to make room for a submit button, but I want it to be sort of separated from the rest, right? I want to be sure it's clearly visible. So let's take this over to, let's say, about here. We can always make adjustments later. Take our expiration over. Make sure that that is appropriately sized as well. Make sure amount is appropriately sized. I'm going to grab this, duplicate it by holding Option and Shift. Change this to say CCV. And now we can resize this. And that leaves us a nice space in here for a submit button. So let's take this in. Now I'm going to adjust the fill on this to something high contrast. Considering this is a button, like our other buttons, we want to make this a round rec. You don't have to, I'm just saying, in order to stay consistent with the rest of this particular layout, we're going to go round rec. And now I'm going to duplicate some text in here. I'm going to title this Submit. I'm going to want to change the color, the fill on this. Oh, there we go. And I'm going to want to change the fill on this to white because I want high contrast. Let's move it into there. I'm going to take this, send to back. This button, let's move it right in here. Center it, adjust the sizing. Set it to bold. All right. I think with that, our donate page is complete. Now, there are, of course, some adjustments we can make. We can move things around a little bit for hierarchy purposes, for spacing, etc. But this is a good starting point, and we can always come back through and refine our layout after we get everything in place. All right, so the beauty of this sort of setup is that, like we have with other pages, we can reuse elements. So let's grab all of these, hold that Option and Shift key, and drag all of these elements right on over to the other form that we're going to need. Now we can zoom in, and over here we know we're going to need the full name, email, phone number. We don't necessarily need the billing address for this one, so we can get rid of that. And we don't need card number, expiration, CCV, all that good stuff. But we do need to know what position they want. Are they looking to foster? Are they looking to volunteer? What do they want to do? Etc. So let's say requested position. And we don't want necessarily, I would imagine if we were developing this, if we were designing this, we wouldn't want the user to just be able to type in whatever they wanted. So let's indicate that this is meant to be a drop-down box that the user is going to click, and it's going to show a preset number of options. So in order to do that, I'm going to choose our pen tool down here on the toolbar. That's P on the keyboard. I'm going to come up here, and I'm just going to approximate it for now by holding the shift on the keyboard, which again is going to constrain our X and Y to generally 45-degree angles. So while holding shift, I'm going to click, move my pen. See, it's constraining to 45. Click, and then while still holding shift, bring it right on up, and it's going to snap into alignment, and click. All right, now you can hit the return key in order to confirm that. I'm going to click it, and I want to change the stroke to one of the grays that's used elsewhere on this page. And let's see, maybe we can take the weight up just a wee bit. All right. So you can see over here that if you select this, you can make other adjustments to your stroke, including starting points and ending points and what have you. But for our purposes, this is going to be good enough. Let's take this weight back down again. There we go. All right, and that's going to be enough for our foster and / volunteer page. Now, with this, we're largely done. However, I think I personally want to take this a step further. So, we have our donation and foster / volunteer forms completed, but I think I'd like to put together an adopt form as well. So I'm going to click and drag across one of these already completed form fields. This is probably going to be most indicative of what I need. And I'm going to copy it and paste it. Command C, Command V. Now let's stick this right down here. And let's retitle this adopt form, so we know what we're working with here. And in this case, we only really need to make one change. Dog's name. So now the user can select amongst the available dogs for adoption and send that request form in. Let's change the title of this to adopt. All right. So after we go through this and we refine everything, make sure all of the elements are consistently placed. Headings are, again, consistent. Sticking to that design style, the design language defined for this brand. Of course, comb through all of the copy, all of the writing, to make sure that it is absolutely free of errors, that it communicates as strongly as intended. Once that's done, now we can start adjusting the prototype. We can start setting up the interactions between the pages, and this is actually quite easy, relatively speaking. I'm going to zoom so we can actually see everything on here. And now I'm going to look over to our properties menu on the right side, and I'm going to click prototype. Now, in here you can see I already have some set up, but let's go ahead and get rid of these connections in here. There we go. Let's start fresh with all of this. So in order to set up clickable areas and tell it what to do, here in Figma, it's actually super simple. What we're going to do is click an element. Let's zoom in on these two, for example. We're going to click this element. Actually, I'm going to click and drag across those so we have this whole thing set up. And I'm going to make this a group. And now if I hover over this, and you see these little white dots that show up on each edge of the object, if I click and hold on one of those, I can drag it out and tell it where I want that button to go. In this case, I just want it to go to the About page. As a matter of fact, I also want the logo to go to the About page. No matter what you click, the next page is going to be the About page. So once they're on the About page, let's zoom out a little bit. We have 4 buttons here. We need to decide where all of those go. So foster and volunteer, click and drag right over here. And when you release the click and drag to tell the button where it should go, you're going to see this little menu pop up right here. So here you can define the trigger action. Generally, on tap is going to be what you want. Now there are many other things that could be done. You could set it up so that you can drag, swipe, what have you, between different pages. Mouse down, mouse up, touch down, touch up, add a delay. As you can see here, what happens when you have key or gamepad connected. It's actually pretty powerful for being so simple. However, for our purposes, on tap, the default is going to be pretty much what you need. almost 100% of the time here. Action, navigate to. We want to navigate to the selected frame. And then you can also change the destination here if you really wanted to. There's really no need to, because if you misdrag, just grab it and move it somewhere else. You can set up an animation, what it should do. There are many things you can do. In this case, I'm just going to choose animation to be smart animate. By and large, this is going to be a smart move. It's going to be a combination of a dissolve and content matching. But by all means, experiment with these. See what all you can do with it. Determine what is best for your content. So I'm just going to choose Smart Animate on that one. And I'm actually going to come back to these and click them and choose the same. Smart Animate and Smart Animate. All right. And again, if you choose the wrong place, all you have to do is click and drag to move it somewhere else. Just like so. All right, so let's finish setting this up. So we can, from the Adopt button, we want to go to the Adopt page. From the Donate button, we want to go to the Donate page. I want to point out that it's retaining our most recently chosen animation, so we don't have to do that every single time. Contact, I want to go to the Contact page. Likewise, we have forms we need to get to, right? So on the Donate page here, we have a Donate button. I want to drag out to the form, foster and volunteer, drag out to the form. And now we have an Adopt form as well. And this one's going to get a little bit more tricky, right? So because we have an Adopt button here, I want to go to this Adopt form. But we also have these little calls to action here, the to adopt, click here. So I want all of those to also go to this Adopt form. So no matter what you want to do from this Adopt page, we're going to the form. We want people to go to this form and reach out for adoption. All right, and then as a final piece, we need to give our users a way to get back, right? You know, if they get all the way to, say, a form here, but maybe they want to back out and they want to look at something else, how do they do that? In this case, I'm going to have the users use the sort of universal language of click the logo at the top of the page to get back to the home in order to take them back. So one by one, from these logos, I'm going to send all of these logos right on back to the About page so they can go back to navigation here. Same goes with our little logo up here, right on back to the About page. We have one here that needs to go to the About page. Just a couple more. And we're done with that interaction there. So now all of our logos take us back to the About page. But what about the logo on the About page? Likely that shouldn't take us back to the About page, but at the same time, we also don't have a way to get back to this landing page. Now, most people aren't going to need to go back to the landing page, but this is a good opportunity to allow them to if they really want to. So from the About page, they can click this home icon, this logo, and be taken back to the landing page. All right, so let's see how this works. Of course, you're going to want to test it, right? So if we look to the top right corner here, we're going to see a little play button. Now, once we click this for present, it's going to open a new window, and it's going to offer us the opportunity to test this out and show us where maybe we need to make some adjustments. First thing that pops into my mind here is that the logo is being covered up by the what Apple calls Dynamic Island. Now, that's not going to be an issue on every phone, of course. Dynamic Island is a different size, different placement on different iPhones. Android phones have a completely different situation. Some are going to have a small camera cutout right in the middle. Some are over to the left or the right. Some are non-existent. So it depends on really what you're trying to target. But in my case, I would probably want to move that logo down a little bit, not just here, but on every page. So let's click this and see where it takes us. Right on over here to the About page, aka the navigation, right? And now we can click around. And you want to be sure that you are clicking everywhere you have an interaction. You want to click. You can see here, if I click this foster and volunteer, it's not taking me where I want to go. So we need to go back to our prototype and take a look at that element and make sure that we're getting that adjusted appropriately so that everything is linked up as it should. And then you go back into testing by clicking the play button and click around. Make sure that this is all working exactly as intended. Okay, so now that we have our website refined, we have everything linked up, and we've gone through and we've tested every single link to make sure that everything is fully functional, it's time to share the page. In order to do so, you're going to click the share button at the top right corner of the project file here. And when the share menu appears, the most important thing you're going to want to find first is the who has access area. So we want to click where it says only those invited, and we want to change this to anyone. We want to be sure that they can only edit it. We don't want others to be able to view this, or sorry, to edit this necessarily. And we also want to ensure that there's no password associated with this. It can become overly cumbersome for your instructor, potentially other peers, to review this if a password is applied to it. So we want to ensure that anyone can view the project and no password is required. All right, so with that done, we're going to click Save. And from here, we want to look to the very top of the share menu, and we want to click where it says Copy Link. Click that. It will say Link Copied, and the copied link is what you can submit, distribute, what have you, with a simple Command V to paste it in. All right, so that is the long and short of this. Of course, there is going to be more development time needed on your end than is shown with this video, because there is a lot of prep work, right? You have to determine what the overall flow of your website is going to look like. Of course, there are going to be adjustments to be made throughout the actual production process of the app, and there's going to be the need to collect and edit any imagery that you have available. You have to write the copy for it, of course, or at the very least make adjustments to existing copy where copy exists, and then get everything laid out, linked up, etc. So be sure that you are setting aside enough time such that this app can be as professionally presentable as is possible.